Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Inshallah, we'll begin with our fourth class today. Just a quick glance over what we have studied so far. We have gone through Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah An-Naba, Surah An-Nazi'at, Surah Abas, and Surah At-Takfir. And the common thing that we have seen in all these surahs is that there is a mention of Yawm al-Qiyamah, that there is going to come a day when all that we see around us, everything, it would be demolished. The way we see things, they wouldn't exist that way. Everybody would be in a state of worry on that day. Everybody would be raised up, resurrected from the dead, and they'd all be worried because now is the day that that deeds of everyone will be brought forward, and everyone will see what they have gathered till this day, whatever they have gathered in terms of deeds, what good deeds they have done, and what bad deeds they have done. Every single thing will be brought forward, and there would be only two groups of people at the end of that day. There would be those who were successful in the test, that is this life, and they'll go to Jannah. And there are those who were unsuccessful in the test, that is life, and they'll go to Jahannam. May Allah save us that we be one of those people, and may Allah make us from the people of Jannah. Since the matter is so grave and it's so crucial and critical that all our life for eternity afterwards we would be either in hell or in Jannah. This message it has been repeatedly conveyed in Quran that people they correct their affairs in this life in this chance that they have got, so that eventually when they are there on the day of Qiyamah they pass the test that they are for sure going to face. So again, that there should be no doubt in the hearts of the people that such a thing is for sure going to happen, and that this is their chance to fix or correct their situation so that they save themselves from the punishment that might be waiting for them on that day. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Surah Al-Infitaar, the cleaving. Themes of the surah. It focuses on portraying the day of judgment by the scattering of arranged creations and a change in their condition and course as a confirmation of the previous surah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. إذا السماء فطرت, when the sky will split apart because of the angels descending from it. وإذا الكواكب تترت, when the stars fall one after the other and are scattered. وإذا البحار فجرت, when the seas are opened into one another and they merge. وَإِذَا الْقُبُورُ بُعْثِرَتْ, when the soil of the graves is turned over to resurrect the dead in them. عَلِمَتْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ وَأَخَّرَتْ, at that time every soul will know the actions it sent forward and those it left behind and did not do. يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِنسَانُ مَا غَرَّكَ بِرَبِّكَ الْكَرِيمِ, O man who has rejected his Lord, what has made you go against the instruction of your Lord when he gave you respite and did not punish you quickly as a favor from him? الَّذِي خَلَقَكَ فَسَوَّاكَ فَعَدَلَكَ, the one who gave you existence after you were non-existent and who proportioned and balanced your limbs. فِي أَيِّ صُورَةٍ مَا شَاءَ رَكَّبَكَ, in whatever form he wished to create you, he created you, he favored you, as he did not create you in the form of a donkey, monkey, dog, or other form. كَلَّا بَلْ تُكَذِّبُونَ بِالدِّينِ, O you who are deceived, the matter is not as you thought. In fact, you deny the day of recompense and do not work for it. وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ لَحَافِظِينَ, over you are angels who record your deeds. كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ, noble in Allah's sight, scribes who write down your deeds. يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ, they know of every action you do and they write it down. إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ لَفِي نَعِيمٍ, those who do abundant acts of good and obedience will be in the everlasting bliss on the day of judgment. وَإِنَّ الْفُجَّارَ لَفِي جَحِيمٍ, those who committed iniquity will be in a fire that will be burned over them. يصلونها يوم الدين. They will enter it on the day of recompense and suffer from its heat. وما هم عنها بغائبين. They will never be absent from it, instead they will remain in it forever. وما أدراك ما يوم الدين. O Messenger, what will tell you what the day of justice is? ثم ما أدراك ما يوم الدين. Again, what will tell you what the day of justice is? يوم لا تملك نفس لنفس شيئا والأمر يومئذ لله. A day when no one will be able to benefit anyone. The entire matter on that day will belong to Allah alone to deal as He wishes and not to anyone besides Him. Surah Al-Mutaffifeen, the fraudsters. Themes of the surah. It focuses on showing the condition of people in respect of their measurements and their homes in the hereafter, in order to warn those who give short measures and deny, and to comfort those believers who are downtrodden. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wailul lil Mutaffifeen. Destruction and loss be for those who give short measure. الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون. They are the ones who, when they measure for themselves from others, they take their full right without any reduction. وَإِذَا كَالُوهُمْ أَوْ وَزَنُوهُمْ يُخْسِرُونَ. But when they measure or weigh for people, they reduce the measurement and weight. This was the practice of the people of Medina at the time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to them. أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ. Do these people who do this evil act not know that they will be resurrected before Allah? Beneficial points. Arrogance is an obstacle to following the truth. So perhaps it's referring to this ayah number 6. Ya ayyuhal insanu ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. The angels record the deeds of the servants by Allah's orders. وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ لَحَافِظِينَ كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ. Point number 3. The ability of the Creator to create man in any form he wishes. في أي صورة ما شاء ركبك. ليوم عظيم. For the reckoning and recompense on the day that is great because of the trials and horrors it contains. يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين. The day when people will stand before the Lord of all creation for the reckoning. كلا إن كتاب الفجار لفي سجين. The matter is not as you thought, that there is no resurrection after death. The book of the people of inquiry from amongst the disbelievers and hypocrites will be in loss in the lower earth. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا سِجِّينٌ. O Messenger, what will tell you what Sijjeen is? Kitabum marqum. Their book is written and will not vanish, nor will there be any increase or decrease in it. وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Destruction and loss on that day will be for those who deny. الَّذِينَ يُكَذِّبُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Those who deny the day of recompense, in which Allah will give His servants the recompense of the actions they did in the world. وَمَا يُكَذِّبُ بِهِ إِلَّا كُلُّ مُعْتَدٍ أَثِيمٍ. None denies that day except every person who transgresses Allah's limits and commits abundant sins. إِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِ آيَاتُنَا قَالَ أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. When my verses revealed to my messenger are recited to him, he says, these are stories of the earlier nations and are not from Allah. كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون. The matter is not as these deniers thought. Instead, the sins they used to commit has dominated and covered their minds, and they therefore have not seen the truth with their hearts. كلا إنهم عن ربهم يومئذ لمحجوبون. Indeed, they will be prevented from seeing their Lord on the day of judgment. ثم إنهم لصال الجحيم. Then they will enter the fire to suffer from its heat. ثم يقال هذا الذي كنتم به تكذبون. Then on the day of judgment it will be said to them in rebuke and censure, this punishment that you received is what you used to deny in the world when your messenger told you about it. كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين. The matter is not as you thought, that there will be no reckoning or recompense. The book of the people of obedience will be in Illijeen. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا عِلِّيُّونَ. O Messenger, what will tell you what Illijun is? كِتَابٌ مَرْقُومٌ. Their book is written and will not vanish, nor will there be any increase or decrease in it. يَشْهَدُهُ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. This book is witnessed by the angels brought near in every heaven. إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ لَفِي نَعِيمٍ. Those who do an abundance of good deeds will be in everlasting bliss on the day of judgment. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ يَنظُرُونَ. On decorated couches looking at their Lord and at everything delightful and pleasing to their souls. تَعْرِفُ فِي وُجُوهِهِمْ نَضْرَةَ النَّعِيمِ. If you see them, you will see in their faces the effect of luxury in their beauty and splendor. يُسْقَوْنَ مِنْ رَحِيقٍ مَخْتُومٍ. Their servants will give them wine from sealed containers to drink. ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون. It will give a fragrance of musk until its very end. For this noble rewards the competitors must compete by doing what pleases Allah and leaving what angers Him. وَمِزَاجُهُ مِن تَسْنِيمٍ. This sealed drink will be mixed from the spring of Tasneem. عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. This is a spring in the highest part of paradise from which those brought near will drink purely, and the rest of the believers will drink from it mixed with other drinks. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا كَانُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَضْحَكُونَ. Those who committed wrong by the disbelief they held used to mockingly laugh at those who had faith. وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِهِمْ يَتَغَامَزُونَ. When they passed by the believers, they would wink at one another in ridicule and amusement. وَإِذَا انقَلَبُوا إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ انقَلَبُوا فَكِهِينَ. When they returned to their families, they would go back happy with their acts of disbelief and ridicule of the believers. وَإِذَا رَأَوْهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّ هَٰؤُلَاءِ لَضَالُّونَ. When they saw the Muslims, they would say, these people are astray from the path of truth, as they abandoned the religion of their forefathers. وَمَا أُرْسِلُوا عَلَيْهِمْ حَافِظِينَ. Allah did not appoint them to guard their deeds so that they could make this statement of theirs. Beneficial points. The danger of sins for the heart. Perhaps it's referring to ayah كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. We'll inshallah go over some details towards the end. I'm right now planning to just go through the text, and inshallah towards the end I'll add a few points to what we have seen in the text today. The disbelievers will be deprived of seeing their Lord on the day of judgment. Perhaps this is referring to ayah كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. Mocking the people of religion is a trait of disbelievers. إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون. On the day of judgment, those who have faith in Allah will laugh at the disbelievers just as the disbelievers used to laugh at them in the world. على الأرائك ينظرون. On decorated couches, they will look at everlasting bliss that Allah prepared for them. هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. The disbelievers have been given the humiliating punishment as a recompense for the actions they did in the world. A few points to add to this explanation from what we have seen in Surah Al-Mutaffifeen. So first of all, in the start it says وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا اكْتَالُوا عَلَى النَّاسِ يَسْتَوْفُونَ وَإِذَا كَالُوهُمْ أَوْ وَزَنُوهُمْ يُخْسِرُونَ. So it mentions that there is going to be destruction for a certain group of people, and what is the trait of these people? When they ask for their right from others in terms of their trade dealings, they expect that the other party they would pay them in full. But when it comes to them fulfilling their responsibilities and paying off other parties or weighing for the other party or counting for the other party, this is where they fall short of. So we see around us, and unfortunately, this practice is so rampant in our society that when we go out and have any public dealing with someone, we would easily come across such people who, when demanding their rights, they would make sure that they get their full right. But when it comes to them fulfilling their end of the bargain or their end of the deal, they fall short of that or they do not do that well. And we must also reflect in our behavior when we engage in contracts with others, whether at our workplace or in marketplace or elsewhere. Are we engaging in this behavior that we demand that the party that we're dealing with, they do their part of the deed, but when it comes to us doing our part of the deed, we do not keep our parts of the deal. So if we have currently this behavior in our personality, we must immediately rectify it, because Allah has announced a severe punishment for people who show this trait. And Allah raises a question for the people who show this trait. أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُم مَبْعُوثُونَ. Do these people not think, do these people not know that this act that they are doing, there would come a day when this act would be presented before Allah, and then they will be answerable to Allah for this act. So again, if this trait is in someone's personality, they must recall that there would be a day when all the deeds would be presented before Allah, and they would be asked about the shortcomings that they had in the contracts that they made. Another thing that we see over here, that it was mentioned in the beneficial points as well, that when a person, and this is something that is explained in one of the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he informed that if a person commits a bad deed, an act of sin, a black dot is placed on the heart of the person. If the person makes tawbah and istighfar, that dot is washed away from his heart. But if he does not, the black dot stays over there. So a person would keep on committing evil sins until dot by dot by dot by dot his heart is fully covered in blackness. And such a heart then does not absorb the message of Iman, does not absorb the message of Islam, and does not respond to the call of Allah. So again, we must look at our affairs, that may Allah save us from this situation. But is our situation like this, that we have been so engulfed in sins that dot after dot after dot has been placed on our hearts, and our hearts have become blackened? And now, when we hear the message of Allah, we do not respond to it. And the way out of it is that we make tawbah, from the sin that we have committed, and we make istighfar before Allah, because He is Al-Ghafur Ar-Rahim, and inshallah He will forgive anyone who asks for forgiveness. Another thing that it mentions over here, that one of the punishments for the disbelievers on the day of judgment is going to be Kalla innahum ar rabbihim yawma idil lamahjubun, that there would be a hijab between them and their Lord, as in they will not be able to see their Lord. And there is a hadith in which this has been explained fully. I'm not going into the details of the whole narration, but it is established that the best reward that believers they would enter, the highest reward that the believers they would receive once they enter Jannah, it is that they would be blessed with sight of Allah. And from that, we can see that the worst punishment, perhaps, for these disbelievers would be that they would be barred from the sight of Allah. There would be a hijab between them and seeing Allah. May Allah save us from that situation. Also, we see over here when Allah He mentions the rewards that believers they are going to receive in Jannah. إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نظرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك. So after mentioning all these rewards, Allah says, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ, that this is the thing that if you want to compete over, you should compete over this thing. So in the world, we see that our competitions are mostly for the material things. So for example, we see that there is someone around us, a family member, a friend, or someone that we know, and they have achieved a great worldly status. So we try to compete, that we exert an effort so that we are ahead of them, we get a better status than them in this world. Similarly, we see someone who has gathered wealth, and then we try to exert our efforts in gathering wealth and in trying to amass more wealth than others. So all these things are for this world, and on the day of judgment they may amount to nothing unless they are used for the sake of Allah. What Allah encourages us to have competition in is to compete over who gets a better status in Jannah after Qiyamah. And in other places as well, we would see later in the Quran, this message it has been repeated. For example, one place it says that if you are going to have a competition over, you should compete over, or you should run towards Jannah and maghfirah of your Allah and the great rewards that He has gathered for you. So this again sets a goal for us in this world, that this world is going to be our time of preparation for the Akhirah. And we are not going to get another chance, that this life we spend in competing over the worldly gains, and maybe we'd get another life in which perhaps we can have our competition for the Akhirah. This is our only chance to carry out all the acts. So let us use this chance to compete to get a better rank in the sight of Allah on Qiyamah. And lastly, a trait is mentioned over here of the disbelievers. إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون, that disbelievers not only they choose to disbelieve in the message of Islam, what they do on top of that is they try to mock the message, as well as those who mock the message, as well as those who follow the message of Islam. So again, this is a trait of disbelievers. We should look at ourselves, that knowingly or unknowingly are we also engaged in this behavior, because this is something commonly seen, that people they would make jokes about, or they would make jokes around topics involving Islam and Sha'air of Islam, the symbols of Islam, and they'd consider these as jokes. Whereas in the sight of Allah, this is a great thing. You have got all the other things besides Islam to make your jokes about, and you can have your fun, but not about anything related to Islam, because this is something that could, in certain circumstances, amount to even kufr. So this is a great sin, and one should be very careful not to engage in such a behavior. So these were a few thought points and a few action points from the lesson from the ayat that we went over today. May Allah give us the correct understanding of His book. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'an wa amalan mutaqabbalan wa rizqan tayyiba. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min ilmin la yanfa'u wa min qalbin la yakhsha'u wa min nafsin la tashba'u wa min da'watin la yustajabu laha. May Allah bless us with the correct understanding of His book and the action on His book, the action which draws us closer to Him and not away from Him. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.